A very warm welcome to our lovely audience joining us from various different time zones across different geographies here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. I'm your host, Nalin Chandna, and I welcome you all to the 66th episode of TLR Shows. TLR Shows is a flagship series of live stream shows brought to you by TLR Now. TLR Now is a niche one stop learning and development, coaching, training, and mentoring organization catering to corporates, educational institutions, and not for profits. TLR Now, headquartered in Pune, India, has presence across the subcontinent, Middle East, and the United States of America. On TLR shows, we have had guests from various different backgrounds in the last 10 months that we have been organizing these shows now. We have had entrepreneurs, coaches, trainers, speakers, relationship experts, people from the art and culture streams, theater, musicians, media houses, business houses, educationists, lawyers, doctors, etc. TLR Shows is one place where you meet amazing people who share their expertise to transform lives and keep upgrading lives to ensure a brighter future for all of us. Today, we have a very special guest on our show, Mr. R.V. Sridhar. Mr. Sridhar is the Executive Director and CEO for the coated steel business at ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India Limited. In his current capacity, he manages one of Group's significant business units, covering an annual business turnover in excess of 14,000 crores and production, sales, and operations covering 3 million tons of steel across 5 plants and 2 countries. In his earlier assignment as Executive Director and CEO of SR Steel pre-coated facility, he turned around the business from being a loss maker to one of SR Steel's most profitable SBUs through process innovation and working capital management. He achieved a consistent 97% plus plant utilization level, the highest customer satisfaction index, and an enviable employee engagement index of 84%. Mr. Sridhar has also been conferred the Steel CEO of the Year 2017 award by the Steel Users Federation of India. Prior to this, Mr. Sridhar was the global business head of SR's 7,000 crore rupee downstream and auto division, one of India's largest downstream businesses. With an excellent record in building high performance teams and over 27 years in the steel industry, covering both public and private sectors, he also holds extensive experience of working in the African markets when he worked with the East African steel major MRM Limited for about 4 years. He has traveled to over 80 countries and has presented papers at many steel conferences with critical acclaim, with extensive WTO anti-dumping, anti-subsidy experience, having handled investigations against Indian steel exports to Indonesia, Europe. He was also the sole private sector representative for Kenya in WTO's 5th Ministerial Conference at Mexico. He has also worked with the International Trading Division at Tata Steel and Steel Authority of India Limited. He re-engineered Tata Steel outbound logistics models as part of the Booz Allen Hamilton team, achieving significant cost reduction. He has spearheaded 8 QIPs in Tata Steel, winning various MD and VP awards. He holds a master's degree in international business from IIFT Delhi and is a physics postgraduate in quantum electronics, fiber optics, and communications. Wow, this is like rocket science for me. He has won many academic spurs during his career and was a topper at his university and at school. As a person, a hardworking, enterprising, and creative professional who believes that everything worthwhile is uphill. A very, very warm welcome, Mr. Sridhar, to our show. We are extremely delighted to host you today. What an awesome profile, Mr. Sridhar. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Sridhar, for taking out time and coming on to our show. And indeed, we are very delighted to have you here. And our audience is really looking forward to get insights from you. You've done a lot of great work in your rich experience. So, Mr. Sridhar, ArcelorMittal is the world's leading steel and mining company. The company says that its goal is to build a better world with smarter steels. What a terrific statement that is. You have been part of this wonderful organization. So tell us more about this awesome organization and your role.
ArcelorMittal is the largest steel company in the world, and Nippon Steel is the third largest steel company in the world. Both of them have combined. It's a confluence of two major steel companies around the world, and they have taken over SR Steel. So now we have some sort of a Triveni Sangam in ArcelorMittal, Nippon Steel, and the erstwhile SR Steel. And it's a unique
Right.
combination. And right now we are at about 8 to 9 million tons of capacity and
Okay.
production. Eventually, we will be one of the largest in India, 15 to maybe even 20 million tons as we go along in the next 3 or 4 years.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm handling the coated division of ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel. And let me put it this way: I'll be talking about this, not the entire company.
Sure.
And having said that, we are into almost 110 countries around the world in terms of exports. We are into,
Hmm. Hmm.
5 or 6 continents around the world in terms of exports. We have a market share of 60% in pre-painted galvanized steel. We are one of the largest producers of color-coated steel in the country. In fact, we were the pioneers in India. I would put it that way, way back in
Right.
1990 onwards. I manage 4 plants, one in Kapoli, in Pune and Indonesia, and also one plant in Andhra Pradesh, and of course, partially another plant which is the coated part of it in Hazira, which is our mother plant. Having
Right.
said that, having said that, all these units have a turnaround history in them. In fact, they were all loss-making units, especially the Pune unit, about which
Hmm.
I will be speaking on.
Sure.
Has there been a tremendous turnaround? 6 years back, 6.5 years back, I had come over as the CEO of this unit. At that time, it was making a loss of about 8 to 10 crores in negative EBITDA per month. And there
Right.
again, now we are talking about 45 to 50 crores positive EBITDA per month. There has been a total turnaround both in the bottom line as well as in the top line. Top line, we had about
Right.
1,400 crores turnover. Now we are talking about, in this particular unit, it's about
Right.
4,500 to 5,000 crore turnover. So
Hmm.
there has been a top line increase and there has been a bottom line increase. And so the same
Right.
success what we had here, it has become some sort of a case study, and we have replicated it elsewhere, various
Right.
other places which I've talked about. So
Right.
I will
Right.
talk about this unit. So it can become sort of a turnaround, case study for most of the audience. So let's begin
Sure.
with this.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So, as I had given the introduction, we are into 110 countries around the world. We have a 60% market share. We produce value-added coated steel. We the flat steel, what we call it, from galvanized color coated, which goes into refrigerators, which goes into appliances, which goes into the roofs, and so on and so forth. So we are into the highest, I would say the pinnacle of value addition. And
Right.
as I mentioned to you, we also not only serve the Indian market with a 60% market share, we are also exporting around the world. And just to tell you, since you talked about smarter steel, all
Right.
this COVID situation, what has come, we have treated this as a black swan event. Let me put
Hmm.
it this way: most of us, it's a problem. You know, we lost sales in the month of April and to a large extent in the month of
Right.
May. People thought that was the end of the world, but however, in
True.
every problem there is an opportunity. The Chinese character for problem, if you invert it, it becomes an opportunity. So, as we know, there is a tremendous demand for refrigeration, medical refrigeration, for all these vaccines and all. This vaccine is
Hmm.
a black swan event. It has never happened in the human history to such a large extent. So
True.
we have exploited this opportunity, and we have started, producing the steel for medical refrigeration. So this is an opportunity.
Awesome.
Then again, government of India for last 1.5 years, thanks to the Modi government, has invested in 111 million toilets across India. As V.S. Naipaul has written about India, A Wounded Civilization in 1975. That's a book which he had written. He
Hmm.
talked about the
Hmm.
whole country as a big bathroom. In India is the world's largest bathroom. So, but today,
Hmm.
thanks to the government, we have 111 million toilets which have been built, and AMNS, ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, is at the forefront of government's, this toilet initiative. So there are a
Awesome.
lot of opportunities which we can tap on, and as I mentioned, every opportunity, every problem has an opportunity
Comes with an
seed in it.
opportunity.
So
Very right.
let's move forward. Let's go
Yeah.
to the next slide.
Yeah. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what is our guiding principle? I mean, what I follow for this turnaround. Sam Walton, the
Yeah.
founder of Walmart, is a sort of an inspiration. He sets very high targets, sometimes impossible, and this becomes a driving force for the team. So let's take this as an inspiration from him. And the second factor, which he always insists on, is cost reduction, brutal cost reduction. When I say cost reduction, it is not tinkering with costs. It's process innovations. In fact, I'll be talking about the process innovation in our plant, which is one of the main reasons why there has been a turnaround from a negative 8 to 10 crores EBITDA to about 45 to 50 crores EBITDA per month from this particular unit. And then I gave this example of Lego. There is a community called AFOL, Adult Followers of Lego. Basically, Lego goes into crowdsourcing of ideas. It takes it from, it's an online community where it outsources ideas and implements them into various products. Something similar is what I have done in this particular plant. Let's go to the next slide.
Sure.
Let's look at this. This is carburetor. What is the function of a carburetor in a car? It mixes fuel and the air in a compartment prior to putting it into the engine. Can we do away with this compartment, which is obsolete? Can we have direct fuel injection, right into the engine instead of having a separate space where fuel and and the air is mixed? This, in a way of eliminating a carburetor, leads to the light weighting of vehicles. So this is eliminating of unnecessary processes. Something similar we have done. If you look at color-coated steel, it is a steel strip. On top of it, there is a paint on top on the upper surface of the strip, and also there is a paint on the bottom surface of the strip. Now, binding this paint to the strip is something called a primer. The function of a primer is to bind the paint to the steel substrate, both above the surface and below the surface as well. So somebody said in our plant, why don't we eliminate this primer entirely? And let's have a top coat primer, this paint as well as bottom paint come with a built-in primer. If it comes with a built-in primer, you don't require a primer at all. So this leads to saving of the material cost of the primer. But then again, there is a other major saving because of it. If you have a steel strip, on top of it you put a paint and then you put primer, there are two ovens, one oven to bake the paint and another oven to bake the primer. Okay, whatever you have put paint and the primer on the steel substrate, it has to bake, it has to cure. Okay, for that you have to put it through an oven. So now if you have two ovens, one for the primer and one for the paint, and if you are eliminating a primer, you can eliminate one oven entirely. So 80% of the cost saving is because of eliminating one oven and thereby leading to the reduction in the power costs. So, and then the second point is the material saving. Now, because of this process innovation, now people have started copying it elsewhere, etc. I have just given you the rudiments of it. There is an elaborate technology behind it. But having said that, this has led to reduction in cost by about 2,800 to 3,000 rupees per ton. So what was a loss-making unit has now suddenly become profitable. Now,
so
there is
process
something. There is a psychological concept called serendipity. Like Alexander Fleming started, he started doing some other work and accidentally found penicillin. Okay, so it's an accidental, serendipitous discovery.
Yeah.
The same thing. My main intention at that time was to reduce the cost, and which we did. But there was an unintended benefit. The line speeds, which were at 80 meters per minute, suddenly became 135 to 140 meters per minute. The line speeds increased, the productivity increased. So again, there was a top line increase in the company. Then the third point was there were a lot of claims because of paint peel off, etc., coming from different customers. Now, whatever process we did led to the elimination of complaints and claims entirely. We don't have a single complaint for the last so many years, 5 or 6 years. So all these are unintended benefits of whatever happened. This is serendipity in action, so to speak. Now, so this is what we have implemented, leading to cost reduction and cross-process innovation and leading to many other things. I will also give you another example from the auto sector, Audi. It has got 8 cylinders. But when it is cruising at a regular speed or stable speed on a highway or something, there is a concept called dynamic cylinder deactivation. If you are operating on 8 cylinders, suddenly it can be brought down to 4 cylinders to conserve on fuel or power, etc. But it doesn't diminish the performance of the engine or whatever. So something similar, you don't require all the parameters of a plant working all the time.
Right.
The plant can run without some of the parameters also. So when you
Mm.
implement this dynamic cylinder deactivation, sort of a analogous concept in the plant function. So these are some of the things which we did to reduce the cost.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's tremendous insight.
Yeah. So let's go to the next slide.
Yes, please.
Now, there is a sensitivity analysis. Now, this cost consciousness, cost awareness must go down to the grassroots. Now, I have this sort of a board put all across the plant. It says if you save 1 unit of power, so many rupees are saved. Kg of propane, so much of cost saving is there. 1 gram of zinc, so much is the cost saving. And so all these parameters are put in Hindi, English, and Marathi in different vantage points in the plant, so that the workers get to know the cost consciousness is being drilled right down to the grassroots. And not only this, various instructions, the targets in a particular month is displayed all across. I've just given you some example. Displayed is in the plant, it is displayed in the main office, it is displayed in the buses which carry our workers and all that. Not only this, achievements of our plant is displayed all across the company, in order to give the workers some sort of a pride in whatever they do. So these are
Mm.
some of the things. It's a communication revolution. I have used a Hindi word in my plant, what we call Samvad Kranti. Communication revolution. So whatever are the targets of the plant, whatever the objectives which the management sets, is drilled down to the grassroots. Apart from the cost consciousness, and more importantly, the achievements, whatever they have done, is displayed, quite vociferously all across, so that people take pride in it.
Mm. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Fine. Yeah, the next slide.
Okay.
If you have any questions. This is a symbolic representation of sweating up an asset.
Mm.
As Nalin was mentioning, 97% capacity utilization. This is quite enviable feat. Now, the same
Awesome.
thing is replicated in the other plants which we have done. All the plants are running to full capacity, whether the steel cycle is up or down. Steel is prone to cycles, vagaries of demand and so on and so forth. But despite that, we have run the plant whether it's up cycle or down cycle, and this itself
Mm.
becomes the biggest cost eliminator.
Right.
Okay, next slide.
Okay.
Okay, apart from cost reduction and cost innovation, it's important to improve on-time delivery index. The faster we supply to the customer. We take inspiration from Zappos, this online shoe retailer. It says, we will process your order in 8 minutes. So we have set a target for, for the customers. I will supply you my material in 6 to 7 days from your order. Now, this is a big thing. Normally, color coated steel, which is at the pinnacle of value addition in most of the European companies, takes 1 to 1.5 months. How can we abridge, compress this lead time to 6 to 7 days? Now, this is another SCM, supply chain management innovation.
Right.
Let me put it this way: instead of we have standardized the colors. When customer wants a blue, blue is very relative. What the blue this customer A customer wants, what B customer wants blue. All these blues are
Right.
different. So we have
Right.
employed what is called standardization of colors. So
Mm.
every color change leads to a downtime of about 45 minutes in the plant. Now, if I
Mm.
can eliminate color changes by standardizing the colors, I can eliminate the downtime, and that itself is a non-capex productivity increase. So the color changes in our plant, which were about 9.2 color changes per 1,000 tons, now has been brought down to 2.7 color changes per 1,000 tons. So now this is a non-capex, non-investment related, what you call productivity increase. So this
Mm.
Zappos experience, what should I say? I will supply you through standardization. One of the quickest deliveries today. We had one of the quickest
You got
We
muted.
also have
Yeah, yeah.
we
Sorry.
also have a differentiation model. You know, 40 to 50% of our business is on standardization. The balance 50 to 50% is on differentiation. We give, various experiences to the customer. So both these,
Mm,
go
mm,
simultaneously, just to put it that way.
right.
Let's go to the next slide.
So, yeah, so Mr.
Yeah.
Sridhar, I mean, these changes that you have brought in, which is like remarkable changes, but I think with working with a large population of employees, it is important that the culture is right, because to bring these kind of changes, you need to have a lot of commitment from not only from people like yourself and your management team, but people at the ground level. People have to kind of really be aligned with the vision. So how do you do that? Because I think that's another important aspect of you as a leader doing that.
Look, I'm a workaholic. There is something called a follow up. I have realized whether it is Indian sort of culture or European culture, wherever, follow up is very important. Rules of success are very simple. We don't have very complex, rules of success. A simple daily follow up, and that to rigorous non-stop follow up, ensures that all whatever the vision or the objectives, the targets are all met. You know,
Mm,
so this is important. The follow up, and there is also I have a regular meeting with all the workers and my management staff on Saturdays. Saturday afternoon is reserved. Literally and figuratively, I have an open door policy. Not people can come and give ideas. This particular process innovation which I talked about has come up from the grassroots. It is the workers who have given this idea. All this, what I've talked about standardization, it has come from the grassroots. So if you
awesome.
have ear to the ground, if you allow people to come and speak to you, if you eliminate the barriers between the management and the workers, I'm sure this is possible. People will do
Mm,
listen. People like to be, praised, like to be given a
absolutely.
pat on the back for all the good suggestions or work they do. It is a simple praise which can do wonders.
Mm, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll go to the next slide.
Yeah. Go to the next slide. I again take inspiration from Larry Page. He says, whatever products we do, it should pass the toothbrush test. Every day morning, what is ubiquitous and omnipresent, which you do all the times, which you, without fail, nobody forgets to brush their teeth. So something which is commonplace, can my products be commonplace? So with this objective in mind, we started, we have built a very strong market share, 60% in color coated, in the country. And we not only getting this market share, but also maintaining and sustaining it over a period of time. Okay,
Mm,
we want to make our product highly popular, commonplace, omnipresent. In fact, I started a campaign earlier. It's called SR Omnipresence campaign. We are into nook and corners of the country. Not only in the cities and all urban clusters, semi-urban and rural clusters also should have our presence. We are into 158 semi-urban and rural clusters in the country. Okay, now
okay.
I monitor this in a big way, and if you go any part of the country, if you see a color-coated steel, if you will look to the other side of it, ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel will come. So that shows the omnipresence which we have in the country, in the nook and corner.
Right.
In fact, not only omnipresence in India, but even omnipresence in Europe. Any color-coated from India is synonymously linked with this unit.
Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, next slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now we have talked about cost reduction and supply chain. What is the other factor for improving the EBITDA of a company? Let's look at this blue ocean strategy, and the authors are well known. Basically, it is finding out uncontested market spaces. The so-called blue oceans are not the red oceans where there's a brutal fight and blood is spilled. Practically, how do we implement this? Every month, I tell my people to have a pie chart of all the destinations where the Chinese export. Wherever the Chinese don't export, it's a very simple and effective strategy. You export there. For example, Argentina. Okay. We have found that Argentina is a blind spot for the Chinese. So we became the first mill in India to tap the Argentinian market month after month, 8 to 10,000 tons of galvanized steel. So this finding blind spots, global niches, or what we call as a blue ocean strategy is not just limited to export markets. Why not in India as well? Interior parts of Maharashtra, Sangli, Nanded, etc. Okay, they are the what we call the blind spots of my competitors in India. If I have Chinese competitors blind spots across the world, I also have blind spots for my domestic competitors. Why don't we tap them? Now, by this simple technique, okay, if you are into a country where the Chinese are not, you have a price advantage of $80 to $100. The Chinese are brutal in their
Absolutely.
competition; they can beat anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so and then again the same thing applies in India. Again, another example, the Chinese are anti-dumped in various countries. They are anti-dumped for color-coated in Europe. They are anti-dumped for cold rolled in Indonesia. Why don't you pick up those markets where the Chinese have an entry barrier? So these are some of the techniques which are quite simple, but
Correct.
it goes a long way in improving the price realization. How do you increase the EBITDA? Increase the price, reduce the cost. Simple. That's how the
True.
EBITDA
True.
increases.
True. 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 True.
Yeah. Next.
Absolutely.
Again, there is another beautiful concept called institutional voids. Okay, in India, for transportation of goods, you had a simple auto which used to carry goods, and then you have the other extreme, which is a 16-tonner truck or 17-tonner truck. There was nothing in between these two extremes, which is what is called an institutional void, emptiness, coined by Tarun Khanna and Krishna Paliko of Harvard professors. Now, this institutional void was exploited by Tata Motors with this Tata Ace truck, one-tonner truck, and later on it became a two-tonner truck. Incidentally, these are co-developed with ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel and SR Steel, in those good old days.
Awesome.
Having said
Okay.
that, if the same institutional voids which we have tried to exploit, between two galvanized steel and color-coated steel, you had 25,000 rupees as a spread. Why don't we launch something which is 10 to 12,000 rupees spread over galvanized? So you're exploiting a niche which nobody has found out yet, which is you are filling the institutional void. So taking inspiration from Tata Ace truck.
Correct. Correct. So I think all this entails a lot of out of the box thinking, things which have been happening a certain way. I think until you challenge them, you'll not come out with these kind of initiatives.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Look, these are there are three examples here: IBM versus Microsoft. If you are nimble-footed versus being flat-footed, you see the reaction Microsoft versus IBM. IBM stuck to mainframes where Microsoft went into PCs. Similarly, Kodak versus Fujifilm. These are all like classic case studies. Fuji went into digital prints and all, where Kodak kept through the bricks and mortar films and all that stuff. And Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012. Similarly, Netflix versus Blockbuster. Any
Yep.
company which is ruled by finance, I don't know its fate. Let me put it that way. Because the classic example of Blockbuster, okay, both of them were video rentals, and Netflix gave the customers the bandwidth. You can take on rent the videos, and you can give it back to me as and when you wish. Okay, it eliminated the pain points of the customer. But however, Blockbuster, whenever they returned late, they started putting fines. It kept the accounts in the finance department very busy. Whereas Netflix eliminated these pain points and gave the freedom to the customers. You know what happened to Blackbuster, Blockbuster? You know what has happened. So
Yep.
these are some of the things which we take, should I say, learning insights from this, and then try to eliminate the pain points of the customers. I would recommend to your audience this beautiful book, No Rules Rules by Netflix. Netflix
Right.
versus Disney. Where Netflix, in terms of the capitalization versus Disney, and in terms of the so many subscribers. I'm told 192 million subscribers.
Right.
So this is the market outreach. If you stratify your organization with too many rules, you don't give the bandwidth to your people to function.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that flexibility and bandwidth is absolutely important to for people to kind of come out with creative ideas also.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Let's go to the
yeah.
next slide. Again, these are some of the thoughts which we have implemented. I mean, these are, I would say, thought leadership. In India, which has got intermittent power supplies, especially for freezers and all in rural market and all that. You know, if you have refrigerators and where the power supply is intermittent or most of the times is absent, you have a situation where refrigerators can't function. The cooling does not happen. So Coca-Cola has come up with this, freezers which run on solar. So now this,
Right.
you see that Coca-Cola, that red. So this Coke Red, we are also supplying to the Coca-Cola. So these are some of the interesting end users. You have freezers on wheels which operate on solar. You have refrigerators which operate on solar. And even without power, they can remain operational for 42 hours, for 72 hours. So these sort of applications which we have started getting into. Now, again, taking inspiration from Coca-Cola, there is this soda fountain which says pick your flavor. So we, as a company which is one of the oldest in color coating industry and which has developed
Right.
4,000 color shades, so we have started saying pick your color. So we will deliver or supply you whatever color you want. So pick your color, the same model and the same lines as pick your flavor of Coca-Cola. And then again, steel imitating nature, biomimicry as we call it. Steel, which is like wood finish, marble finish. You see
Right.
all these
Right.
steel doors. They are not wooden doors; they are steel doors. These are not wooden furniture; they are steel
Right.
furniture. So it is steel imitating nature.
Right.
It's called biomimicry. So all these sort of things which we have developed, these are all thought leadership, I would say.
Right, right. Actually, you're right, because steel, if to a common man, steel may sound to be a very standard kind of a product. Like, and when you think of steel, you just think of steel rolls, which will be used in like probably cutting and then made out into products. But I think a lot of innovation that you have thought on a product as a steel, comparing with consumer products like Coca-Cola, for example, it's a very nice kind of an analogy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, we have also developed apps on this. I don't want to talk too much about it, so I left it half. I have not completed the sentence.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's leave it at that. Also, we have developed on Instagram a satisfied online community of satisfied users. Of our products.
Okay.
So it's a sort of endorsement. One fellow endorses, the other person picks up. So it catches. This is this contagious. This endorsement become contagious.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
The next slide, please.
Yeah. I'll move. Yeah.
Now, this is an interesting concept. Again, borrowing from auto. In fact, I had an auto background, so I copy a lot of concepts from the auto industry. You have heard of Volvo S60, lane keeping aid. Now, if for
Yep.
whatever reason the vehicle swerves off a lane, then there is a lane keeping aid which brings it back onto the lane, the car onto the lane. Similarly, you have a runoff road mitigation. If by chance the car goes off the road, it can come back because of this whatever technique which they have, runoff road mitigation. Now, if these things can
Okay.
happen in automotive technology, why can't we copy them in steel industry? In our production lines, we have strips moving. There is something called side tracking. Sometimes the strip comes out of it. Side tracks,
Okay.
something similar to a car coming off the road or of the lane. So we
Right.
are trying to develop this lane keeping aid, the strip keeping aid, so that the strip remains in place. So these are borrowing some technologies. I mean, I would say creative using of borrowing technology from automotive industry.
Mm. Great.
Okay, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay, now coming back to post-COVID innovations. As I mentioned, all problems, if you invert, their opportunities. After this health consciousness which has come, you have there is a certain profusion demand for cold rooms, for clean rooms, antiseptic rooms, pharmaceutical rooms in hospitals and all that. So we have started supplying to those. Also for food industry, antibacterial, antiviral. Okay, now this sort of end uses, not only in India, but we have started exporting to, in Middle East, Qatar, for example. We have supplied for a hospital in Qatar this particular, antibacterial and so on and so forth. Cold rooms,
Right.
clean rooms, etc. Food packaging, etc. So these are some of the various end users which we have supplied to.
Mm.
Also in India, we have the government of India is coming up with solar applications. By 2023, we are likely to have 175 gigawatts of renewable power, solar power, etc., etc. So most of our steel goes into that end application. Then these toilets, which thanks to the Modi government, which has come, and again, thanks to Nitin Gadkari, who is a transport minister, we are building roads at the fastest rate in the world, 41 kilometers to 50 kilometers or so per day. And there are transport codes at every 5 kilometers. You need to have a kiosk. You need to have a petrol pump. All these petrol pump canopies and all are coming out of color coated steel. So these are some of the areas of tapping demand which was hitherto untapped.
Great, great, great. So
So
it's an awesome opportunity. Yeah.
yeah. So again, I mentioned to you about doors and windows, steel imitating wood. Then we have ceilings, and then recently we won a tender for bunk beds made out of steel in Karnataka. So all these are some of the, very interesting, clean rooms, wood finish, and it can go on and on. So these are some of
Right.
the things which we do.
Okay, great.
New product development.
Yeah,
So
yeah, please
we
go
must
ahead, sir.
keep on developing new products and should be ahead of the competition.
Yeah, true, true. I think you have to outpace the competition to kind of
Yeah.
be successful in the market. Absolutely.
Yeah. The next slide, please.
So, Sridhar, you have been in leadership roles across geographies, and with the kind of rich experience that you have, what do you consider are the personality traits that make a good leader? It will be a lot of experience that you bring, so I think it will be very insightful for our audience to know.
Passion. That's the first and most important thing.
Yes,
You need to drive
definitely.
people.
I can see that.
Okay.
Yes.
A, passion. B, innovation. Okay. You need to think out of the box, as you were mentioning earlier. Then, apart from that,
Yep.
communication. You have to be a good communicator. You need to reach out to your audience, both, to say the workers, the management, so on and so forth.
Right.
You need to have a buy-in from the management. You need to have management support. Otherwise, you can't do any of these things. And I would say, by grace of God, I have had excellent management support. Okay. And then again, what we say is empathy. In the later slide, I'm going to talk about empathy. There are two aspects of
Sure.
leadership: empathy and authority. Okay, both of these have to go together. Okay.
Right. Right.
And then again, what we call is a servant leadership. I cannot be in an
Yes,
ivory
true.
tower. I need
True.
to be approachable. I need to be a man of the masses. That's how it should be. And then again, this seizing opportunities, aggressive opportunity seekers, that is very important. And you must be alive to opportunities all around the world where it might not have existed, but you must be in a position to have the intuition to grab opportunities even before they
Correct.
present
Correct.
themselves. And
Correct.
lastly, speed. Speed of action is very important.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think
And above
these
all,
are really good nuggets. Yeah. Yeah.
knowledge. You need to read a lot. Okay, updated on the knowledge. These are some of the things which I feel is necessary for a leader.
No.
In this
Wonderful.
particular slide, we have shown our Twitter communication, which we have done on the medical refrigeration, which I mentioned to you. That's the black
Right.
swan.
Right.
Even
Right.
these vaccines have
Right.
come in the cold storage of them. Medical refrigeration we have got into, and then again, these toilets made out of our steel. We have been at the forefront in supporting the government in clean India, smart steel for a better world.
Great. Great. And this is an awesome kind of an innovation, tapping in on the opportunity at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Yes.
Look, this is borrowing from our Hindu philosophy. Lord Shiva is
Right.
Ardhanarishvara. He is on one side, Lord Shiva, authority. Then you have Mother Parvati, or symbolizing empathy. This is androgynous
Right.
leadership. You need to have both these traits. You
True.
must be
True. True.
sensitive.
I think.
You must be empathetic to your customers, to your employees. At the same time, there has to be authority as well, discipline.
Correct. Correct. I think that's absolutely true. I think all the points that you made, passion, innovation, uh, knowledge, communication, empathy, seizing the opportunity. I think these are all real great pointers, and I think that is really going to help all of us become better leaders. But Mr. Sridhar, now what do you, as a leader, for you, for your organization, what is the most important? Is it the mission, vision, values? How do you kind of prioritize things in terms of what you start with your values? You start with having a target first. How do you move forward?
Values are non-negotiable. Integrity
Absolutely.
is non-negotiable. Okay.
Absolutely.
If
Yeah.
anybody is found wanting, he is shown the door mercilessly. So there is
Mm,
no compromise on that. So that's the
mm.
value system which we keep. Apart from
Awesome.
that, it's the vision. You know, taking inspiration from Steve Jobs, reality
Mm,
distortion
mm.
field. He says
Right,
he
right,
gives you a
right.
vision. Nobody thought of a smartphone, mobiles, iPhones, and all that. So now
Mm,
it's a reality. So when it was conceived, it was a reality distortion field. So when before we started, the 60% market share in the country was a reality distortion field. So you set a
mm.
target, you set a vision for the team, and then enthuse them with that vision, and then you have this product. I mean, this achievement coming through. So something setting a vision is
Correct,
very important.
correct,
And
correct,
here,
correct.
that's
So,
what I mentioned,
yeah.
Steve Jobs, role, which he,
Mm,
it's a reality distortion field.
yeah. So when you're setting up the vision for the entity, let's say for the next 1 year or for the medium term of 3 to 5 years, what are the thoughts that drive you when you're setting up the strategic vision for the organization that you're leading?
You know, let me put this in my mother tongue. There is a saying: it is it is better to run after a tiger than to hit a lame jackal. Okay,
Mm,
you have to create a very high vision. For example, Indonesia plant has started taking care for last 1 year or so. Prior to that, in the whole year, it made an EBITDA of $3 million. The whole year.
mm,
In
mm.
this month alone, it will be making $4 million EBITDA.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So casting the
So
high vision is important.
yeah, so that's how it should be.
Yeah, but I think from your side, you are very passionate about that vision and you know that it is achievable. How do you enable the employees to connect to that vision?
This vision is displayed all across the company. Okay,
Mm,
and there are a lot of communication exercises, and people are told there are certain things which are non-negotiable. For example,
mm,
market share of 60%. Tell me how you go it. I'm okay with the means, but the target remains same. The vision remains. So now tell me,
mm.
I'm open to be. I'm very flexible on the how of it, the why of it. I mean, how
Right,
to go about it.
right, 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 right. Wonderful. So, Mr. Sridhar, now it wonderful career that you've had in the past. Obviously, it has come through a lot of hard work, perseverance, persistence, and coming
There is one
across a
more
lot of
slide.
challenges. Yes, please.
There is
Sure,
one
sure.
more slide.
We'll go to that. Let's go to the slide first, please.
Yeah. Now, this is a beautiful book, which again I'm recommending to your audience, on Becoming a
Yeah.
Leader by Warren Bennis. What's the difference between a manager and a leader? Manager
Yeah.
focuses on the bottom lines, the leader focuses on the horizon. Manager does things right.
Right.
However, the leader does right things.
True.
Managers take you where you want to go, leader takes you where you should go. We need to have an organization which is undermanaged, overled, instead of underled and overmanaged. I do not believe in micromanagement.
Mm.
You decentralize
Right.
decision making and leave empowerment to the people.
Mm. Now, this is a very good concept of being undermanaged and overlaid. That I think that's a wonderful concept you're talking about. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So, Mr. Sridhar, I mean, I was mentioning that you've come across, I mean, it's a rich experience that you've had. You've worked in various organizations, various geographies, and obviously there are a lot of challenges that you've overcome and you reached where you are today. What is the biggest challenge you have faced in your career, and how did you overcome it, and what did you learn from it? Any idea you can give to our audience?
I mean, let me give you an incident. This Koregaon Bhima agitation,
Right.
that epicenter was just half a kilometer from my plant. Okay.
Okay.
This happened on January 1st. The year, I don't want to mention this.
Right.
We were working on that day. Okay.
Mm.
Now, by 1:30, then this commotion galata began. And since it was very close to this epicenter in Pune, all the
Mm.
mob would have come and were coming to our plant. Now, I had
Right.
women, I had, so many people who the vulnerable, so-called vulnerable sections. Now, how do I
Mm.
do it? Okay. Now, all of them were evacuated on emergency basis to the back door. And
Right.
me and the management and the so-called the senior people were the last ones to leave unless everyone was safe.
True. True.
So
Yeah.
this, I mean, it was a big challenge, and I would consider myself it's a rebirth. That particular incident, I
Mm.
didn't know why something untoward
Yeah.
actually could have happened. All the employees would have been at risk.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So
Mm.
these are some of the things which really make we, I mean, whatever we are at this point of time. It's a
Yeah. These are
summation of all
tremendous
these
life lessons.
experiences.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
summation of all these experiences,
True.
which
True.
make us
Tremendous
what we
life
are.
lessons. Yeah. True. True. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. On the slide, we have this something about culture. So, what would you
Yeah.
want to talk
So
about that,
this
Sridhar?
again borrowing from Samsung, they have this culture of performer perish, auto da fe as it's
Mm.
called. It's something. So this creating a sense of urgency in the team, that the targets are non-negotiable. And if you are not fitting into the culture of the organization, I would invoke my Shiva aspect. So far, Parvati
Mm.
aspect is okay. So this is the message.
Right. 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 Yeah. So that sets the tone of the culture in the organization.
Yeah.
So, Sridhar, you talked about getting ideas from people and having an open, transparent communication policy. So, while open and transparent communication is essential to develop the right corporate culture, at the same time, talking about organizational transformation may require some really hard decisions to be taken. So, how do you strike the delicate balance between the two?
Look, I have a lot of patience. I give people a lot of bandwidth in the room to fail
Mm.
also. But if it is repetitive and I find that the employees or whatever are not putting the enough commitment, I am okay with people making commitment and failing. In that case,
Mm.
it's an act of faith and they're doing their best. It depends on the
Right.
individual's ability. But however, if the commitment is lacking, yes, we do change people.
Mm. So, have you faced any instances when you felt challenged on the people management side per se?
Yes, yes, we do on a regular basis. And we
Yeah.
shuffle the people. In fact, again, Albert Einstein's quote, it says, if you judge a fish about with its ability to climb a tree, obviously it will fail.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so therefore you need to put the right kind of people in the right places.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's a management failure if you do not put them there. If they
Yeah.
are
There's
not
another
performing,
one. Yeah.
it could be because of uh, they're misfit in that particular slot. So you have to
Correct.
look at it.
Correct.
And if still they don't perform in other slots, well, of course you need to change.
Correct.
And very
Correct.
importantly, the people have to gel with each other, seamlessness
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
organization, teamwork.
Yeah.
So that sounds
You're right.
important.
You're right. Yeah. There's another one that I heard of, that fishes are meant to swim and the eagles are meant to fly. And if you do the
Exactly.
reverse, then definitely
Exactly.
it's going to bounce
Be
back.
a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, talking about teamwork, I mean, people are people, and you may always have situations with team conflicts. But when you constitute your teams, what is the number one aspect that you look for as a trait in all your employees when bringing them onto the team?
Uh, I do create teams with one or two who are devil's advocates. Okay.
Mm.
I mean, it cannot be that everyone thinks alike. There has to be,
Right. Right.
there has to be some diversity, new thoughts, and not necessarily everybody's in sync together, because in that case, what you have, group think as we call it in management terms. I do not want
Right.
group think. I want constructive conflict of ideas.
Mm.
Okay, I mean, I don't mind if people fight to prove themselves who is better. In fact, that is constructive. Competition is constructive.
Right.
Destructive competition is what is dangerous.
Right, right. Absolutely right. I think these are wonderful insights, and I would encourage our audience to kind of send in their questions. And this is a one of a time opportunity with Mr. Sridhar, a transformational expert with tremendous experience in transformation and leadership. Any questions, he'll be very happy to answer. In the meantime, I'll continue the conversation. Mr. Sridhar, I mean, transforming an organization is an extremely complex process. While you need to challenge the existing ways the things are done, keeping the teams motivated, ensuring stakeholder confidence, and simultaneously ensuring market development as well. You talked about maintaining market share, coming out with new products. So, what has been your overall approach in terms of thinking about such new products? So, you have a team which is working on what's happening around to look at the new opportunities that can be tapped in. How does the organization work on market development?
It is top driven. Okay, it starts with me.
Right.
Okay, and
Okay.
then it percolates downward. There are certain things which has to be top driven, and this is this
Mm.
cost reduction, lateral thinking is to be top driven, and then once you have set the pace, others will follow.
True. True. So, what is the best and the worst part of being the CEO of the organization like this?
Doing unpleasant things, giving giving feedback which is not very positive to employees.
Right. Right.
So these are some of the unavoidable things which we have to do. So
Yeah, we have to do it. I mean, yeah, you can't avoid them. Yeah, you have to think about the overall betterment of the organization, and even that particular employee to whom you're giving the feedback. So it is all for the benefit of that particular employee as well.
yeah, exactly.
So what keeps you busy? You said you are a workaholic, but what keeps you busy when you're not at work?
I do
What do
read
you
a
enjoy
lot.
doing?
I do read a lot. I'm also a family
Wonderful.
man. I've got two smart children, and their careers are also important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wonderful. So, what is the final piece of advice to young managers, CEOs, or aspiring CEOs in our audience to become successful transformational experts?
Dream big.
Dream big.
Remain, stick to your convictions. Best example is Margaret Thatcher. She was a conviction politician. She was she stuck to principles. So something like that, no
Right.
compromise on convictions and principle. I mean, I'm not telling you to be inflexible. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is core values need to be, strong.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. Having passion, but living that passion with your values intact. Because in today's times, it is very easy to get tempted. So keeping your values intact, I think, is an absolute important thing which cannot be compromised. And yeah, until you live your life of passion, you'll never be happy. So I think that's a
Yeah.
wonderful point you've made, Mr. Sridhar. I think that would really hit hard on the audience, and they will definitely keep that in mind. I absolutely loved the session today, and I really hope that our audience got some wonderful insights as well. I thank Mr. Sridhar for finding out time for us and being a part of today's episode of TLR Shows and sharing such important insights. I've taken some wonderful notes, and I'll definitely reach out to you, Mr. Sridhar, for more of these opportunities. Thank you, audience, for joining us from various geographies. Keep following us across our social media channels to stay updated with our upcoming shows and with what new is happening at TLR now. Thank you so much. You all have a great rest of the week ahead. Take care, stay safe, eat well, and be happy. Thank you again, Mr. Sridhar. I will see you on the other side of the show. Thanks so much. Thank you, audience.
Thank you. Thank you.